Where do you want to go for lunch? I know where I want to go for lunch. I don't want to spend a lot of money. Not fast food. Definitely not fast food. I don't want to spend a lot of money. So where to? Sizzler. Sizzler. So, where do you want to go for lunch tomorrow?
Sizzler. Welcome to Sizzler Family Steakhouse, Yuba City, California. Welcome to California Unearthed. I'm in Yuba City today at the iconic Sizzler restaurant. I have not eaten here in years, at least 10 to 15 years. I look forward to it. I hope it's the same as I remember. My Sizzler that I used to go to all the time was in Fullerton, California on Harbor Boulevard. And believe it or not, that one still exists along with this one. This one's been here for 40 plus years. So that's pretty cool that they're still around. Not a whole lot of Sizzlers are around anymore. I know there are 3 in Sacramento and a whole bunch of them in Southern California. But today we're going to talk a little bit about the history, and then we're going to go inside and have a bite to eat. How many times do you see chickens at a Sizzler? So I guess the question is this where they get their chicken?
Never know.
Sizzler is a California original. Started back on January 27, 1958 in Culver City, California. It was started by Dale and Helen Johnson. Dale Johnson was an ice cream salesman in Culver City in the 50s. He saw a newspaper article in 1957 in the Wall Street Journal that was talking about a steakhouse called Tad's Steakhouse in New York. And this steakhouse had open locations in New York, Chicago, and San Francisco. And they were offering a steak dinner, which included a steak, baked potato, and a salad for $1.09, which in 1957 was dirt cheap. It was just above fast food pricing. And so Dale, with that idea, thought that he could open up his own family steakhouse in Culver City. And it's exactly what him and his wife Helen did in 1958. They started with Sizzler's Family Steakhouse. That was the original name. Here's a few photographs I found on the Sizzler website showing the very first Sizzler Family Steakhouse on the corner of Sepulveda and Centinela Avenue in Culver City in a little area called Airport Village. This location seated 36 people inside and 36 people on the patio. With $50 in the register, some donated kitchen equipment along with financial backing from Jim Collins, who owned the Hamburger Handout across the street, and the concept of selling their steak dinners for just above fast food pricing while still supplying the customers with a full service restaurant experience, Dale and Helen Johnson opened up this very first Sizzler Family Steakhouse on January 27, 1958. I also found a very early newspaper ad for the Sizzler. This was dated February 27, 1958, from a Venice newspaper called The Evening Vanguard. Pause the video if you need to, but look at the prices on that. Dale Johnson was one of the first, not the first, but one of the first restaurant owners to franchise his business. And franchise he did. In 1967, he went to his buddy Jim Collins, who owned the hamburger stand in Culver City that he used to sell ice cream to since 1952. Jim Collins was a Huntington Park native and UCLA graduate who, with the advice and encouragement of his father-in-law, opened his very first hamburger stand called the Hamburger Handout in 1952 at Sepulveda Boulevard and Centinela Avenue in Culver City. After visiting the McDonald's brothers in San Bernardino and witnessing the success that they were having at their very first McDonald's location, and in 1960 personally met with a colonel from Kentucky Fried Chicken and became a franchisee of KFC, opening multiple locations throughout Southern California, adding on to the Hamburger Handout menu. The whole Jim Collins story is a video in itself, too deep to get into here. So in 1967, Dale goes to Jim asking him if he wanted to buy the Sizzler Company, which at that time included 164 restaurants. 160 of those were franchises, and 4 of them were owned by the Johnsons. So Jim Collins, along with 2 of his buddies, purchased the Sizzler Company from the Johnsons family for just under $1 million. According to a 1992 LA Times article that was announcing the death of Del Johnson, they interviewed Jim Collins. And at that point, Jim Collins had said that under the Sizzler Corporation, there was 273 stores, and there was 460 franchised locations. And then at that point, it was worth $400 million. So in 1967, he bought the Sizzler Company for just under $1 million. 1992 is worth $400 million, a huge jump. In the late 1970s into the early 80s, the Sizzler Corporation decided to add a salad bar to the restaurant. And this was an add-on to the entrees. So you bought your entree, and then you could opt in to have the salad bar as part of your entree. Fast forward into the mid-1980s, early to mid-1980s, they turned that salad bar into a salad bar buffet, where they included the taco stand, the ice cream, and things like that. And then they find out that people are starting to use the salad bar as the entree and not buying the steaks and chicken. They're opting into doing the salad bar. At the same time, they introduce the cheese bread. And in the article I was reading, they're saying that this cheese bread was part of the downfall of Sizzler. The company was giving the cheese bread at the beginning of the meal to coat the stomach so people wouldn't eat as much at the salad bar. I tend to disagree with this. I feel that the cheese bread, everybody loves the cheese bread. And if you look at other restaurants, like Mexican restaurants, they give you the chips and salsa before the meal. Logan's Roadhouse, it's the rolls. Olive Garden, it's the breadsticks. So I think that the cheese bread at the beginning of the meal, I would not say that was the downfall or the beginning of the downfall for Sizzler. I disagree with that. Let's go on inside and partake in the meal. Sizzler was highly successful throughout the 60s, 70s, and 80s, up until the early 90s, when competition from places like Ponderosa Steakhouse and Bonanza Steakhouse, along with the quality of food, began to decline. In 1996, Sizzler filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy and closed over 130 locations. The company re-emerged from Chapter 11 in 1997 with new management, higher quality food, and an increase in price. In 2001, 21 more locations were closed. Around 2002, Sizzler began with an image makeover with lighter, more open dining rooms along with a new menu, but the steak, seafood, and salad bar remained constant. In 2005, Sizzler was sold to Pacific Equity Partners, an Australian-based investment firm which opened locations in Australia and Japan, along with many other different countries around the world. In June 2011, Sizzler USA announced that the U.S. management group led by the Sizzler CEO, would buy the American portions of the chain of 178 restaurants from Pacific Equity Partners, with the remaining 100 restaurants located outside the United States remaining with Pacific Equity Partners. In 2012, the headquarters, which remained in Culver City, was moved to Mission Viejo, California. In September of 2020, Sizzler USA once again filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy due to the impacts of the pandemic. Sizzler had 107 locations in 10 western states at the time, with 1 location in Florida and several locations in Puerto Rico. This number is down from 134 locations in 2018. Sizzler is still operating, obviously, and attempting to rebuild its business with renovations, a new menu, and an aggressive advertising campaign. I'm a little shocked that the price point here at Sizzler nowadays is definitely not just above fast food pricing like Del and Helen Johnson started off with in 1958 and the Sizzler Corporation continued with for the next 40 years. It definitely feels like 1980s in here. Feels like I've stepped back in time. That's kind of cool. Alright, let's go check out the salad bar. Alright, Here we go, the salad bar. Take a little walk around, see what they have to offer on the salad bar. This is pretty cool. Over here we have taco section, soup, some spaghetti and meatballs, and chicken wings. There it is, the famous cheesy bread. Hey! Alright, apparently I can't have any cheesy bread. Oh. Alright, plate number 1. You gotta hit the salad, of course. And some cheddar broccoli soup. Somebody took a bite out of the bread. How dare they? This looks so good. So Cheryl, what do you think?
It's good, just like I remember as a kid.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, you haven't eaten all your cheesy bread. I guess that's mine now. Maybe not. Alright, round 2. I've had my salad. Now we gotta move on and try the spaghetti. And of course the nachos. And don't judge me. Alright, best part of the meal, dessert. You got ice cream station there. And you got all the add-ons to it. Brownies. What do you got there? Alright, I'm going to dish up and I'll show you what I have when I get back to the table. Here's what I decided to get. A little vanilla ice cream with some toppings and some caramel syrup. Add a little brownie to it. I'm going to partake on this. Cheryl got herself some vanilla ice cream.
And chocolate ice cream.
And chocolate. Alright, who remembers the mints at the end of the meal? At least for me, in the Fullerton, California store back in the 80s, they had a big jar of mints right up at the front counter. But they still have the same mints. I wasn't expecting that. That's pretty cool. So we just finished our meal here at the Sizzler in Yuba City. And like I said earlier, this is my first time at Sizzler in a long, long time. At least over 10, 15 years. And I absolutely loved it. It was like stepping back in time. The decor in here, the booths, they have a few tables, but not too many. But it's definitely giving me 1980s vibes. Very much so. So I enjoyed it immensely. And hopefully you guys enjoy Sizzler as much as I do. And if you do, put it in the comments down below. What was your favorite location? And what was your favorite menu item? Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. We'll see you guys on the next episode. You ever wonder where the Sizzler gets his chicken for the chicken dinners? They just have to go out in the parking lot.